Hi, and welcome to the Higher Education Access Corner. I'm your host, Tiffanie and today we're going to talk about springing into action, even though we don't have everything that we need for this upcoming 24-25 academic school year. Specifically, what am I talking about? We're talking about that FAFSA simplification process. And for those of you who have been paying attention to the news or you've been listening to our podcast, been talking to your schools, we all know that the 24-25 FAFSA application has been simplified and revised, and there's been some snags along the way. Generally, at this time of the year, we are just entering spring, and usually during that season of spring, what happens is students are receiving their financial aid notification letters and then starting to really narrow down which school is going to be the best fit for them. They should usually by now, they have all the information that they need. They know of all of their wants and their needs, and now they can kind of break out what those financial aid notification letters look like, know how much aid they may receive at each of those schools, and then make a decision. So it's usually a really exciting time. Realistically, right now, we know it's a pretty stressful time. So things aren't working the way that everyone hoped that they had when it came to the new rollout of the FAFSA. But what I always say to everyone, you've done your preparation. Sometimes you have to pivot, and that's a part of it. So I wanted to just let some students and families know there are some things you can do right now in the meantime. So still spring into action. What can you do right now if you're still trying to figure out what that final school choice is, but you've not yet received all of the information that you need? So what I tell everyone is at this point, think of, again, all of the things that you were interested in a school. What are the things you needed out of a school as well as what you wanted? And then choose your top 2 or 3 based off of those non-financial criteria. In other words, if cost was not a factor at all, which of the schools that you've applied to would you actually consider? And then think about why. Remember, the primary reason that you're going to school is to actually get the education you need so that you can enter your chosen career. So ultimately, make sure that the school offers the major or program of study that you want. So that's one of the things you can do right now while we still wait on the financial aid notification awards to come or letters to come from those schools. In addition to that, think about additional factors that might be important to you when choosing a school. Again, we're talking aside from the financial piece. Does the location of the school matter to you, or maybe the size of the classes? Some students are more comfortable in small settings, and they want that student to professor or student to teacher ratio to be much smaller. You don't want to feel like a number. So you want to make sure that you're researching those schools that you're interested in to kind of figure out which one best suits your needs. Also, do you want a school that offers a variety of clubs or organizations where you can get involved with community service or even meet new people? That's also something that is important to some students. Now, at the same time, it may not be important to all students. So narrow down your choice. I say, now's a good time to just have a list of things that are out there for you. These are the things you want. These are the things you need. Ultimately, try to get everything that you need out of that school. When it comes to location, your major, maybe even some student support services. That could be a must for some students. Maybe in high school, you had an individualized educational program or an IEP. And at your secondary school, you're hoping to get some type of student support services at that college or career school that you want to go to. So ask the schools if they have specific assistance for students. Not all may have them at a post-secondary school, but they may. The only way you'll know for sure is if you're doing your research up front. The other thing I tell students is don't lose the excitement that you had about graduating high school in a few short months. I know it can be stressful for some, and we talk to families all the time because you're ready to make that final decision and get this part out of the way. But if you're a high school senior, it's still an exciting time. You've come a long way. Take a minute to just pause and pat yourselves on the back. Don't get senioritis just yet because you still have some additional assignments that you have to get done. But key things that you can really do, one of the couple things you can really do as you prepare, have a discussion with your family. Sit down and talk about what are your top picks. Make it a family discussion to say, hey, these are my top 3 choices. This is why. Location is key. They have my program of study. They have the student support services that I need or I'm interested in. That way, when the financial aid notifications come in from those schools, you'll be ready to make your final decision if cost is one of the weighing factors. And for many households, cost is usually the determining factor on whether or not you're going to go to the school that you really, really wanted, or if you're going to have to, make some sacrifices and still choose a good school, but maybe not the school that was on that wasn't your first choice. And that's okay too. Because again, remember, you're choosing a school based off of what it is you need to get from it in order to go into your career and live the lifestyle that you want. You don't want to break the bank in order to get that done. Now, for the students right now, as you're waiting, you may be in different phases. So some students, if you've not completed your FAFSA application, by all means, you want to make sure you complete it. Studentaid.gov or FAFSA.gov is where you want to go. And you also want to make sure that you have created your student aid account, both for you as well as your parents. And all that good information is going to be available at studentaid.gov, or even check out some of our previous podcasts. The next thing I tell students is make sure you are paying attention to your emails. If you have completed your FAFSA, or if you've done your FAFSA and you think that there's going to be some corrections that need to be made, that's happened with quite a few people. Make sure you're checking your emails, and also make sure you log into your studentaid.gov account and go to your My Activity page, because there may be some information out there for you. For many students, the information on your studentaid.gov account under the My Activity, it may tell you the status of your account. It may say in process or something of that nature. It could be a different status that's out there. Read it, pay attention. Unfortunately, if you do need to make corrections, you're not quite able to do that yet, but we did hear from FSA, or the Federal Student Aid Department, that you should be able to do that pretty soon. So again, still keep paying attention, read your emails and check up on it, so that if you do need to make a change to your FAFSA application, you can do that as soon as that opportunity becomes available, and then you can hit your final submit button and your form will be completed. Some key things that were happening with this current 24-25 FAFSA application that I'm aware of just off the top of my head is that sometimes the student may have submitted the application without the parent's signature, or vice versa. The parent submitted the signature and it didn't allow them to go back and have the student finish theirs. So hopefully all of those things have been corrected. And when the opportunity allows you to go back in to correct the FAFSA, you do so as soon as possible. Another thing, maybe you listed a few schools on the FAFSA application, but you had some more schools that you were interested in. You'll be able to go back in and add those schools. And again, you can add up to 20 schools on this new 24-25 FAFSA application. Also, the FAFSA submission summary, when that comes out to you, and many students have received their FAFSA submission summary. And for those of you who have forgotten what it is, the FAFSA submission summary is just simply an overview of all of the detailed information that you provided on the FAFSA application. So look it over and make sure your answers are accurate and that you didn't make any mistakes. If you did make a mistake, again, when it's time for you to go in, or you have the opportunity to go back in and make corrections, make sure you do so. Because the key information that is listed on that FAFSA application or the FAFSA submission summary, that's the details that are going to go over to the schools, and they're going to use that information as well as your FIA, your state organizations, to determine what you might receive in financial aid. Now, ultimately, once the schools have had time to process through all your information, that's when you're going to get your financial aid notification letters. In the past, we used to call them financial aid award letters, but that's where it's going to detail what you may or may not receive in financial aid. And remember, you can always go back to studentaid.gov. You can go to our website, fia.org, and some of our past podcasts to really break out what the costs are. But kind of quickly, there's your cost of attendance. That includes things such as your housing and fees, tuition, housing and meal plan, tuition and fees, room. Some people may see it as room and board, but I think all schools have converted over to housing and your meals. There's going to be some extra costs that you will incur: transportation, miscellaneous expenses, books, things of that nature. You want to make sure that you're going to have all the funds that you need in order to go to your school of choice. So each school is going to let you know what their costs are, and they're going to tell you what you may or may not have received in financial aid. So you'll see that on those financial aid notification letters. And then once you process that through, you'll know what you're receiving. If there's a gap left over, then you're going to have to figure out, well, how can you fill that gap? Whether it's with additional scholarships, whether it's student loans, maybe it's part-time jobs, 529 plans, you'll be able to have a better discussion. If you're looking at more than one school, what I tell students, this is going to be the time then that you really dig a little deep and you say, okay, let's do a true comparison. School A is going to give me this much, but this is what's still outstanding. This is what I'm getting from school B, and these are my final costs. Ultimately, what I want everyone to remember is in the past, we talked about understanding your true costs, understanding what your net costs look like. All schools are required to have a net price calculator on their website, and FSA also has on their website a net price calculator. It's collegecosts.ed.gov. That's the website that you go to for the Department of Ed or FSA's website, and it allows you to do a good comparison. What it does is it takes the cost of the school, you pull out any grants or scholarships or free money that you receive, and the difference is really your net cost, or what you're truly paying after the free money has been applied. It's a nice way to do a comparison. So what I want you all to remember now, again, we are waiting, but we don't just have to wait. We can kind of pivot. Sometimes curveballs are thrown at us and we don't have the information that we really want to have in a time frame that we want to have it. But that doesn't mean that we can't still do something. So continue to enjoy your senior year. Continue to narrow down your school choices that are out there. Make sure if you can narrow it down to your top 3, knock it out to your top 3, and then throw in the financial piece once you receive that information. Make sure it's a good financial fit for you so that it's a good overall pick for you when you start your post-secondary education or your journey into your post-secondary school year. I tell all students all the time, it's okay if you didn't have it all figured out. You do still have time. So again, for that student that didn't complete the FAFSA application yet, it's okay. Go ahead and make sure you do it, FAFSA.gov or studentaid.gov. And then finally, I want to tell everyone to stay tuned because there's a FAFSA Week of Action that is going to be coming up pretty soon. The U.S. Department of Education will hold a FAFSA Week of Action. It's going to be April 15th through the 19th. And this is a time where schools, local and state entities, including FIA, and all of those who are invested in making sure that the student gets what they need financially or are aware of the things that can be offered to them after they completed the FAFSA application. This is that time. We're gonna increase our efforts to assist the students, their families, with completing your FAFSA application. Be on the lookout for FAFSA workshops, additional webinars, additional information shared across the websites, social media platforms to make sure that you all have everything that you need in order to not only complete the FAFSA application, but to understand the process and what happens next. For FIA, visit pheaa.org or fia.org, and you'll find some additional details for what we're doing. You can also visit fia.org, pheaa.org/virtual to see what upcoming webinars we'll have, and even to check out some of our previous recordings that were out there. Again, I tell everyone, if you do need assistance, you're not in it alone. Studentaid.gov, fia.org. I'm one of, again, 13 higher education access partners at FIA. Reach out to us. Let us know you need some help. We're here for that. The goal is to get everyone what they need. And again, spring is strong, and we want to make sure that you're moving forward with your plans, your goals. We may have to pivot, but we're not stuck. So thank you all for tuning in today with me here.